Have a next storyteller. You know, Kim Duncan was supposed to be with us tonight, and she ended up having to go to a funeral. So I called up our friend Mary Kizmarek, who's never actually been on stage at Speakeasy, but she's done a couple story events for us. When Kathy and I do some charity events, sometimes we'll bring people together for that. And Mary told this story. When was it? It was for Right On? Oh, it was for Right On. Yeah, it was at the Anderson bookstore. So I've gotten to hear the story, and it's about her mom. And Mary is the sweetest, kindest person, and I have to confess, I bullied her today. I totally did. I totally bullied her. It was bad. It was bad. So I apologized. I made an amends, but I'm still feeling that Catholic guilt. But I recognize that. So anyway, whatever. Fucking give me a break, man. If you can bully anyone, bully Mary. If you're going to do it to anyone, she's very forgiving, as it turns out. She'll let you practice. So you know, she's a great storyteller and a great gal, a great friend. Please get your hands together for Mary Kizmarek. Oh. Also, I invited her to come and tell this story, and she hasn't worked on it in a year, so she's going to read it. And she said, "Is that okay?" I was like, "No, it's not." No, I said, "Of course it's okay." And that's the thing here at VoiceBox. Like, we have live lit, which is when you write it down. Reading literature off the page is live lit, or storytelling, just telling a story. All of it's welcomed here. There's no rules. It's however it works for you. And they're both awesome art forms. So please give it up.
She literally got me out of bed this morning, woke me up. I said, "What? Who is this?" So I pulled it out of my computer about 3 o'clock this afternoon. A daughter-mother love story. I have a secret to tell you. Just recently, I was told by my boss that I'm in jeopardy of losing my job. The problem, he said, is that I am about my being unapproachable, defensive, dismissive, and negative. What the heck does he know? Maureen says I'm sweet. I don't know what his problem is. So, am I talking too closely to the mic? Is it... Okay. Yes, I walk around judging and criticizing others in my mind, especially supervisors. But so that probably has something to do with it, what I call authority issues. And this fearful questioning and criticizing, I know where I got it. I inherited it from my mother. For example, when I was growing up, and she was at her emotional wit's end, which seemed like every day, all day long. She would bellow and bark orders with impatience toward me and my two sisters and everyone else around. And the truth is, I hate to admit it, I hate to admit this, I'm just like her. I have lost boyfriends, friends, and even jobs because of this hurtful, impatient tone of voice and temper. And I have a second confession. A long time ago, I decided I will not get married or have children until this temper is under control. For example, once around 1999, I was escorted off a plane. You. Aw. Fuck. Because of my impatience and my bad manners. Yeah. They almost had to, they literally held the plane for me. Okay, they used to do that back in the day, you know. I got onto a full plane. I had 2 big bags. I asked a guy pretty nicely if he could help me. He was already put in his seat. Just, you know, I asked a flight attendant. And I guess I didn't ask nice enough because then they turned the plane around. I know, it's fucking embarrassing. And the head captain person came over and said, "You're off." It's just, I know. So the worst part about it, it does get worse. My mom had been working at United Airlines for 35 years at that point. She knew everybody. They knew her. They knew me. I was a standby. I was flying standby. Had to get off the plane. I still had to get home, and I said, "Mom, I need another flight." And she goes, "Well, what happened?" I got kicked off the plane. She never mentioned it again. So you just got me on another plane. So I guess that's one of the good things about her. But I just want to say, because a long time ago I decided, due to this, I don't want to have kids. I don't want to do what was done to me. When I left home at age 23, I had $300 to my name, and I felt really unloved. And underneath my pleasant and ambitious exterior was a volcano of rage ready to blow. And speaking of volcanoes ready to blow, my mother, she was a tyrant and an anger management candidate if I ever knew one. She worked hard at her job of taking care of the kids, her working yet emotionally delicate alcoholic husband, the German Shepherd dog, the house, and her full-time job at United Airlines. She walked around the house, bossing everybody around without a care for civility. She was never wrong, and she never apologized. She was hard to like. Although she was always doing for us, cooking dinner, getting us to school, buying our needed items, going to the grocery store, keeping my dad in check. She did take care of us, yes, on the physical level, but not in an emotionally healthy way. And she didn't take care of herself very well either. For example, my mother never went to the dentist. And I rarely saw her brush her teeth. She was so embarrassed about her bad teeth that she covered her mouth when she smiled and she laughed. By the age of 54, her whole mouth was filled with false teeth, which was an advancement to her own mother, who I'm sorry, Nanny. Which was an advancement to her own mother, who had no teeth when she passed away at 56. Nanny, I asked her one time when I was staying with her, would you like some popcorn? Mary, she gently chided with me with big, wide, toothless smile. I can't eat popcorn. I don't have any teeth. I still remember that. She, like my mother, cared for so many people, but not herself. My mother smoked Salem menthol cigarettes, drank hot or cold black coffee, Diet Coca-Cola, and lots of cookies and candy and cakes. Sure, we had regular meals at our house, but healthy or nourishing, I wouldn't use those terms to describe it. And fights. Fights were usually ensued at dinner time when my dad would get tired of my mother's badgering, and anything would set him off, in my mother's words, and he would slam down his silverware and then shout, "For Christ's sake, George, get off my back." She never knew when to quit. This proved to be her strength as well as her downfall, which allowed her to get a lot of things done in life but made it hard to live with her. This fighting played out regularly at my home, and that old adage about never argue with a drunk, well, she never read that memo, so the fights would continue through the night. Then there were those moments with my mother that were kind of cold, awkward affection. For example, one time I was standing close to her in the kitchen. She still had her uniform on from work. We were by the sink, by the back door. She had arrived home, and I asked her sweetly, "Mom, do you love me?" She yelled with irritation and contempt. Of course I do. Why do you think I go to work every day? I was shocked. I was hurt, but I didn't want to show it. And I didn't know what to do except make up a story about how irritating, stupid, and bad I was. I remember thinking that if I criticized myself and put myself down badly enough, that when she did it, it wouldn't hurt as bad. If I woke up in the morning and announced I was just too sick to go to school, this is how she would respond. Get up, get dressed, eat, and then we'll talk about it. She would snarl this into the room like an exasperated drill sergeant without a hint of care or compassion. She had work to do. Or maybe she needed to sleep because she was working all night long. So even if I were a little sick, she would make me feel like I was better off at school. Georgia Marion Elin was the only child born to immigrant German and Irish parents in 1935. This was the same year as the Dalai Lama was born this year, Sonny Bono, and Julie Andrews, the mother of all mothers herself. That was the same year that Alcoholics Anonymous was formed. Amelia Earhart flew across the Pacific Ocean. The VW Beetle was launched in Germany, and the first Technicolor Mickey Mouse short was released by Disney. In 1935, Franklin Delano Roosevelt was in the White House. Hitler was the Nazi leader of Germany, Mussolini the fascist leader of Italy, and Stalin ran the Soviet Union. World War II was still 4 years away. Georgia was from a small town of Burnham, Illinois, population 800. High school graduating class of 50, and she was the school and town majorette, or baton twirler, of the marching band, where she would stand in front of the local parades. She was a take-charge, physically well-endowed, blonde-haired beauty, not afraid of the limelight, whose father was a truck driver of explosive materials and who would have a shot and a beer at Uncle Art's Tavern before heading out for his morning shift. My grandmother was a great musician who played piano and the ukulele. She actually played at my Uncle Art's Speakeasy, an underground saloon in the town in the 1920s during Prohibition, and she herself liked to drink a lot. And that's why I'm sure my mother never drank. Fast forward to the 1960s again, when my mom had 2 full-time jobs and lived with an alcoholic husband. She would see us off to school, sleep in the day, work at night. And not only did she work outside the home, but she volunteered with the school, the Catholic school, and the church. The fun, however, was when we got to use those airline benefits. And they were always family affairs. She would plan great trips of far and wide, and once we drove away from the house, she literally became another person. No more sneers, no more looks of disdain or yelling. All dressed up in our better than Sunday best, we took off for the airport 20 minutes away. We always flew standby, usually in the middle of the night when we were sure to all get on the flight. The whole family on the plane together, separated by a curtain. Parents up in first class, 2 younger sisters, and me in coach. This was when my mother was in her glory and holding her own, chatting and laughing with the flight crew and my dad, and coming back to coach to check on us to see if we were okay. At these times, she was kind and fashionably dressed and looked beautiful. She wanted to travel. This was her dream and her goal. When just 20 years old and 2 years of University of Illinois under her belt, she was accepted as a flight attendant, airline stewardess, as they called them in the 50s, with American Airlines. This was where she met my dad. Set your mind to something and don't let anything get in your way. She went after her dream of travel, and we went with her throughout the country and throughout Europe. On yearly vacations, my mother was adventurous, vibrant and relaxed, and happy. She used these trips to fill up her well and make her everyday life worth it. 10 years after my dad passed, she got an infection in the Alzheimer's unit and passed and died. For those 7 years and months leading up to her death, I would wrap my arms around her, and she would lovingly hug me back and say, and I finally got my dream of loving my mother. Once, when I stayed overnight, months before she passed, she called out to me in a nearby bed in the middle of the night, "Mom, is it time to get up yet?" I warmly called back to her while reading my book, "No, not yet. Can you try and sleep some more?" I don't want this Alzheimer's patient up. I want, not in the middle of the night. But I really cherished that time of caring and loving her and treating her, being her mother, mothering her. This last March marked the 5th anniversary of her passing, and I miss her. But through my memories and stories, she is still with me. And not the negative, dismissive, type A achiever of her everyday life, but the kind and relaxed mother that I experienced while on vacation, and at the end as we walked through the Alzheimer's disease together. I'm now hoping to come to a softer side, a more relaxed and kinder side of myself. And I actually have one last confession. I think it's already happening, especially with my job hanging in the balance. Thank you.